What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today I want to talk to you about espresso consistency issues, and this is going to be one of the reasons you might be experiencing some issues with your coffee. Now, with my home coffee prep, I typically take my time and get things pretty much perfect before pulling a shot. However, in the cafe I don't always have this luxury, and it's no secret that rushing your coffee will usually affect how perfect your espresso is going to be. In the cafe, I was using silicone seals for quite some time and decided that I would swap them out for OEM style rubber seals just to see if there was a difference. Quite quickly, I realized why I opted for silicone, as the rubber seals require much more force to get the portafilter to seal properly, and I started to find a lot of inconsistency in my shots all of a sudden. That same day, coincidentally, I came across a video on Instagram captioned, "Please be gentle," by Ryan from Longshot Coffee up in Queensland. This video got my attention, as he was displaying how being rough with your portafilter while mounting it into the group head would create a fracture around the puck inside the basket, therefore creating a giant channel around the outside of the coffee bed. Let me play a little clip here for you that I was sent by Ryan after I'd reached out to him.
The story about being too rough with your portafilter goes all the way back for me to 2010, or at least thereabouts. I was working in a cafe that was very busy, and one of my friends that I was working with suggested we switch then to the new VST baskets. This was a big deal and really cool. You see, I was having all kinds of trouble with my shots channeling when we switched to the new baskets. So much so that my friend Sam, who recommended the change, started calling me Channels McGee, which is probably the lamest of all of the insults that he could think of. You see, I think the baskets that we switched from looked something like this. They were truncated, and we switched to the new VST baskets, which have got straight walls. I suspect that these baskets, when you tamp into them, kind of squish the coffee down into place, whereas VST baskets don't do that so much. And I think because these compress the coffee in, they may be a little bit more forgiving if you're too rough with your portafilters. Now, we know that these are no good and that the technology in espresso baskets has come a long way since then. But for me, the only way I was able to stop my shots channeling was by slowing down the way that I worked behind the machine and being more gentle. We were a very, very busy cafe, and I noticed that during a rush, my shots would get worse. So by slowing down and being more gentle, I discovered that I channeled less and seemed to make better tasting espresso.
So in case you missed that, Ryan's theory is that being rough with your portafilter while using modern VST style baskets will typically cause some issues, which makes sense as the rubber seals I've recently installed take a lot more force, and that means I'm actually being rough with it just to get the thing into the group head. So first, I'm going to make a nice, slow espresso, ensuring I don't make any sudden movements or scream at the basket. Then I'll play some hardcore metal music and bash. Nah, I'm not going to do that. But I will be a lot less careful, and let's see what happens. But just before I do that, I want to test exactly what Ryan did in his Instagram video. So watch this and let's see what happens. So I'm going to repeat Ryan's test that I saw in his video, and we're going to see what happens. So we're going to prep the puck as if we would any other way. This is how I make every coffee here at home. We're going to tamp, and then we're going to place this into the group head very gently, just to test. In, then out. I'm going to do this over this just in case it doesn't work. Okay, puck stays in. Now let's be rough and see what happens. Repeat the process. Well, would you look at that? He's 100% correct in what that does being rough. Okay, so let's repeat this test and put some extractions into the mix and see how it affects our coffee. So first up, we're going to make the gentle espresso. As you can see, we've got 41.2 grams out in 34.8. So let's say it's slightly over extracted from my usual recipe, but that's okay. We're just looking for a difference between these two coffees, not actually a perfect one. So let's repeat the test with the rough espresso and let's see what happens. The only thing we're going to do different is I'm going to be quite rough when we're putting it up into the portafilter. This feels like a sin. And I am going to exaggerate how rough I am because, well, we want to do science. So that's pretty rough. I'm not expecting huge differences, but we'll see. So we got 41.9, so just over the last one, but it did take 40 seconds, which is quite strange, but let's do some measurements and see what happens. So espresso number one has a TDS of 12.27. I did average this one out quite a few times and that's where we've ended up. So as you can see with the second coffee, we've got a 1.2% lower TDS, something like that. That's quite a bit lower. So this is actually closer to what it's meant to be, but obviously there's some adjustments with our grind size that we can make to get these two coffees perfect. But there is a clear difference between being gentle and being rough with your portafilter. So as you can see on the camera there, it's channeled a lot and it's created a lot of what I call pooling. And you can see it's very muddy. It's just very inconsistent. And I don't know if you could see underneath, but it was very inconsistent. It was definitely channeling coffee coming out everywhere. Now channeling doesn't mean it's going to run faster because of this pooling effect. It creates mud which channels the coffee in an opposite way and pushes the water to other sections. So as you can see, there is quite a big difference between those two coffees. I think there was a 1.2% TDS difference. So there's a definite difference in the extraction you're getting out of those coffees. Now I know both of those coffees were actually imperfect. I probably need to go slightly coarser on the grind size, but we're not actually trying to make a perfect coffee here. We're actually trying to test and see what happens when you rush, hitting that thing into the group head. Now, obviously all machines are different, but from the end of this, there's a couple of things I'd like to take away from it. Number one, Ryan, you're 100% correct. Be gentle with your portafilter, putting it into the group head, or anytime after you've tamped. I've seen people knock it on the tray on the way to the machine, and that's obviously going to affect things. I can guarantee you've seen in a cafe after someone's tamped, they'll hit it with the side of the portafilter. Obviously, that creates the same issue. That is something I got taught a long time ago not to do. So if you ever see a portafilter and it's got dents and scratches in the side of it, you know that they're not going to make a good coffee. Secondly, silicone seals are definitely the better option in my opinion. I will be changing them in the coffee machine at the cafe all back to silicone. I've actually got two genuines, one silicone. Not going to go into the reason as to why, but it was all a test and I'm glad we did tests because that's how we find out how to make better coffee. So I'd like to thank Ryan for the inspiration for this video and solving an issue that I had at the cafe. I've linked his Instagram below. Go and check him out. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Have yourselves a great day and happy brewing.